So let's compare the Galaxy A16 5G with Apple's iPhone 16. So basically the Galaxy A16 is a lower mid-range device, which you can find for free in the prepaid market. Comparing it to the iPhone 16, which is a flagship, which is basically an $800 phone. So we have the really cheap Galaxy, or free, to a very expensive behemoth flagship iPhone 16. Both of these devices were released in late 2024, October for the Samsung, September for the iPhone. The A16 is obviously a follow-up to the A15, which is overall a good device, and this just seems like an iterative update from the A15 for the Samsung. And the same could be said about the iPhone 16, just a little bit better than the iPhone 15. The overall bigger device is going to be the Samsung, so you got bigger real estate, which a lot of people will care about. And it's also a heavier device. It is 30 grams or 1 full ounce heavier than the iPhone 16. But the materials are a bit different. You got better quality on the iPhone. You got on the Samsung, you have glass front with a plastic back and a plastic frame, while the back is kind of shiny. The iPhone has glass front, glass back, and aluminum frame. But if you slap a case on them, you're not going to notice much of a difference. You do have an eSIM on both of these devices, while the iPhone only has eSIM. You have an advantage on the Samsung because it has the nano SIM card slot and the eSIM as well. So a lot more easier options if you're changing carriers or having two different phone numbers at the same time. You got better IP resistance with water and dust on the iPhone. You got 68. You can dunk it in water for 6 minutes for 30 minutes, which is better from the Samsung, which is only dust and splash resistant with IP54. Now for the screens, you got a bigger screen size on the Samsung Super AMOLED 90 Hertz, while the iPhone has a smaller Super Retina display, which only has 60 Hertz, 6.7 inches versus the 6.1 inches on the iPhone. So Samsung just has a bigger canvas to work with, just a bigger overall device. It pretty much is the same size as an iPhone Plus model. You got better PPI, so it's a lot of the crisper screen is going to be on the iPhone. For the software, the Samsung is getting 6 major Android upgrades, which is really nice, having a One UI 6.1 on there. So Samsung's making a push with its own software, having many updates, while the iPhone has iOS 18, and it's going to get several years of updates as well. You got a mid-range chipset on the Samsung, while the iPhone has a super fast A18. But for most apps, you'll be perfectly fine with the Samsung. As for storage, the Samsung has an advantage of having that micro SD card slot, while you don't have that on the iPhone. And both start off at 128 gigs. So one is free, one is $800, but it has the same amount of storage. The Samsung starts off at 4 gigs of RAM, which is half of the 8 gigs on the iPhone. So that might be an issue for some, but I think most people using normal day-to-day activities will be enough with 4 gigs, but just barely. I like to see at least 6 or 8 gigs. The iPhone, 8 gigs of RAM is plenty enough, and that's if you want to run Apple Intelligence. That's what Apple's pushing with 8 gigs of RAM. The cameras setup, you have 3 cameras on the back of the Samsung, and you have 2 on the iPhone, but the overall better camera system is obviously going to be the iPhone. The Samsung only shoots at 1080p, while you get 4K on the iPhone. The front-facing camera is 13 megapixels on the Samsung, shooting at 1080p, iPhone 16 4K with the 12 megapixel shooter. One thing that they do have in common is that neither of these have a headphone jack, which is a disappointment in the Samsung, because that's one difference from its predecessor, is that it has removed the headphone jack, which in some cases can be very handy. You got Bluetooth 5.3 on both of these phones, so it's a tie right there. NFC on both of these, that's mostly just used for payments. USB Type-C, which has now become the standard on iPhones finally. USB-C is nothing special to Androids, but it's kind of cool now that phones, Android and iPhone, can use the same charger. Same thing with your laptops, your tablets, and your headphones. They all use USB Type-C, so that's a very nice thing to compare these two. They finally have the same charging connector. Both of these have, updated regular ways to unlock your device. You got a side-mounted fingerprint reader on the Samsung, which is plenty fast, while you have Face ID on the iPhone. And it also has that dynamic island on there, which is a little bit of a gimmick on there, but basically both of these have a fast way to unlock your device. Battery life, the Samsung has that steady 5,000 milliamp battery, which gives you all day battery life. Super good, no complaints there. iPhone, a little bit less, 3,500 milliamp battery, which should give you, if you're a moderate user, give you pretty much all day battery life. But if you're use your phone more than usual, more than most people, it's probably not going to be enough. But you do have 50% charge in 30 minutes. So I think we reached the point in iPhone and Android technology where charging is not that slow anymore, and the batteries are big enough where you could manage a whole day with no problem. So, I mean, this is an easy comparison. If you want a powerful phone with a really great camera system for taking video and pictures, then the iPhone 16 will be your best bet. But if you don't really care about having the best or the fastest or the most expensive one, the A16 5G has more than what you need. Apart from being Android and Samsung, you're not going to get iMessage, you're not going to get FaceTime, you're not going to get AirDrop. And one thing I really like is the AirTag capability with Find My. That is the only things that are missing on the Galaxy A16. Also, is one thing to consider: if you make any type of content creation for YouTube or movies and video editing, Samsung or any Android phone is not for you. The iPhone 16 is still best for that. But when it comes to like hardware, the A16 is in a lot of ways better than the iPhone. You have a bigger screen, all right, a faster refresh rate with 90 hertz. You have that extra camera if you want to zoom in on things, or if you want that ultra wide, you have it there. You have that expandable storage. You have that big old battery. You have the same Bluetooth capabilities. So you're getting a lot of good stuff in the Samsung. And also, you do have 6 years of updates. And believe me, that is nice to have. 6 years is very good in the Android world. Although 4 gigs of RAM with 6 years of updates doesn't sound too good. But this is a free device. This is like a disposable device. You can get it for free. Port in your number, get a free number, whatever the case is. You can get it on Metro, Cricket, Boost, any carrier out there. So it's a free device. The iPhone 16, you must really like video editing and just iOS only apps and capabilities. So A16, really good device for free, but the better overall device with hardware and camera quality is going to be the iPhone 16. That's been my comparison of the A16 5G and the iPhone 16.